N'Keal Harry was an absolute steal at 32. What are you guys talking about? Forget Tom Brady's passing numbers. He's the GOAT because he was the best punter in the NFL. I take Johnny Hekker over Patrick Mahomes to be my quarterback any day.
Welcome to the No Punt Intended Sportscast with your host, Parody07.
So LB has some obligations. Today's actually the 31st of October, so whether you celebrate Reformation Day or Halloween or whatever, he's got obligations to get to. So, and we ran a little long anyways, so he got what he wanted to get off his chest for the Carolina Panthers stuff, so that's great. But we do need, before you go, your dog of the week and your prediction for Panthers at Bears in week, I think it's 11, if not 10.
Yeah, so the dog of the week, I'm going Jahmyr Gibbs,
Nice.
the running back from the Detroit Lions. He's a rookie. He had his best game of the season by far. He had 26 carries for 152 yards and a touchdown. And then he also had some receiving stats, I believe. But again, he ran the ball very well. I watched that game. He was hitting the whole 1,000 miles an hour. No one could touch him. And again, I'm sure the Lions faithful are thrilled about that pick. Now, maybe at the time they weren't super, happy about it. Like, why are we taking a running back, et cetera? But I think that game right there shows why Dan Campbell and the front office drafted that kid. He's super talented. So he's my dog of the week.
Heck yeah, absolutely. Congrats, Jahmyr Gibbs, to be LB's dog of the week. All right, and let me hear Panthers Bears. Tyson versus Young. Who comes out on top, baby?
If it's Tyson versus Young, I think the Bears win. I just think he gives them a better chance to win. He throws the ball from the pocket very well, and they stay on schedule, and they do what they're coached to do. They're not doing anything too fancy, but again, they're moving the sticks. They're staying ahead of schedule. They're playing NFL caliber football as an offensive unit. Again, I think a lot of that has to do with their running game getting established with Deontay Foreman, because everybody knows DJ is going to be a dog at wide receiver. So again, they're just kind of playing complementary ball with that. So if Tyson plays, I think that the Bears win, and I'm saying if he plays, it's because there's still a question around Justin Fields' thumb. It's dislocated right now, so again, we're not really sure on that timetable. So if Fields plays and he's got a shaky, hand situation with an injury, I think Carolina wins. I think we have a better chance to get them behind in the sticks, down in distance. I think our defense at that point will have guys back off of injury and IR. J.C. Horn, hopefully our first round corner, will be back in the lineup, and I think we'll be able to prevail over him, even though he does offer that explosive athletic ability outside the pocket. Again, I think if he plays, we just match up better with that. I think Tyson has a better opportunity and is more equipped to tear teams apart from the pocket and do it methodically versus giving up the, one or two play, 60-yard scramble for a touchdown. He's not going to do that to us. But again, not many people are in this league. Fields does, but again, I'm not sold on his ability to beat teams from the pocket. And I think there's a big question mark on who plays, so I'm split. So I might need to revisit that.
Yeah, so you can just give me a what I'll call a either way score, meaning you can give me a score that, like, for example, 21-17, and just if it's Justin, then 21 goes to the Panthers, and then if it's Tyson, it goes to the Bears. You can do that if you want.
Yeah, we'll do that. So I'm gonna go, if it's Tyson, I think Carolina is going to lose 27-20.
Okay.
If it is Justin Fields, I think Carolina wins 27-24.
Okay. So
Sweet.
all right, thank you very much, LB, for your information and your laugh. Obviously, is always a pleasure to hear. So I'm sorry if I kept you a little ways, but enjoy your evening.
Yeah, man, all good. I appreciate it, fellas. Y'all have a good rest of the evening, good rest of the pod. I'll be looking forward to listening to it when it comes out on YouTube.
Heck yeah.
So we appreciate all the listening. Continue to run up that subscriber count and the likes and all that stuff. Guy and Hound, they do a good job. Really fantastic, job editing, and they work really hard. So pleasure doing this with y'all, and I'm looking forward to hearing the rest.
Yes, sir. Excellent.
See ya.
I knew this day would come. The day where we're down a man.
Oh no!
I'll be honest. I thought it was going to be you, though. I thought you were going to be the first to have to take a leave of absence. But
I am very illoyal. So that is a true characteristic of mine.
I know it's a little out of order.
I love stabbing people in the back any chance I get. It's just I don't know. I can't help it.
Jeez. It makes me very concerned because I know how witty you are. So I can't imagine. I'd imagine any plan you'd have would be devious, to say the least. But since we're already kind of there, might as well do our Dogs of the Weekend predictions, and then I'll go off on New England and national media once again. Go ahead and tell me. Are you on a bye this week?
Yeah, we're on a bye, so
it's actually just me. Okay.
Yeah, it's just you for the prediction.
Oh goodness! All right. Well, I've got the Colts coming to Foxborough. I think I think that's the Germany game. Now that I think about it, and because we lost Kendrick Bourne, who was our number one receiver, and
you did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he's out for the season. So now our number one receiver is, guess who? Demario Douglas. So.
And Bill Belichick's going to be forced to use him.
Yes. Now he's been used a lot more, which is great.
That's good.
But I think it puts us in a really nice position, actually, to try out different combinations. You talked about your disappointment in your second round pick in Sky Moore. Our second round pick receiver, Tyquan Thornton, has broken more bones than caught balls for New England. So he's finally off of IR, and he's only played a handful of snaps. But last year he showed some flashes, so I'd like to see him back on the field a little bit more. We actually signed Jalen Reagor to the roster last week, putting our wide receiver total on the team at 8, which is a lot.
Yeah.
New England at one point was only running with 4 at some point. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, but it was like they were a wide receiver at first, but now we have so many of them, and we don't have enough plays to run them all out on the field. Although I will say it may be beneficial to start trying them at left tackle or right tackle every once in a while. But regardless, enough clowning on our offensive line before it's time to talk about them. I don't know. It's tough. Part of me was going to change the Commanders game because I had them losing 24-20 because I was scared of the defensive line. They traded their 2 best defensive linemen away today, so makes it a little bit more interesting. But I think losing Kendrick Bourne kind of evens out, so I'm actually going to keep it 24-20. I think, and I think I'm going to keep that score the same because I don't know who they're throwing the ball to. We might actually have to use Mike Gesicki, which I don't know why they would ever consider throwing to somebody who's open, but we don't have to worry about that.
Who would do that?
Yeah, so I'll have the Colts beating the Pats 31-20. I know it's a game New England usually wins, but I just think we're too battered and bruised. And unless they find some mojo with Reagor and or Thornton, it's going to be really tough because, now Juju's going to be on the field more, which hasn't boded well for us. And the other thing, too, is we also lost Devontae Parker, at least for the foreseeable future. He's not gone for the season, but he got spearheaded, and they, once again, refused to call it. So I'm kind of getting into what I'm going to be talking about New England, but bottom line is 31-20 loss in Germany against the Colts. But let's go ahead and hear your Dog of the Week, Hound. Who do you got?
Oh, yeah. So my Dog of the Week is DeAndre Hopkins. He had 4 catches, not very many, but for 128 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Good grief.
Crazy. But you know what's even more impressive?
What's
The
that?
fact that he made Will Levis look like a competent quarterback. I mean, for those of you who are new to the podcast, I haven't really talked about Will Levis very much in the last, couple months for good reason, because Will Levis is irrelevant to any good sports media. So, but Will Levis was thrust into the spotlight of having to play quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. And the Tennessee Titans did win 28-23, but I would not put much of that win on Will Levis's scrawny back shoulders. I mean,
Wow.
I know he's not super scrawny, but I'll say it. Because Derrick Henry had over 100 rushing yards, and DeAndre Hopkins had over 120 receptions for 3 touchdowns. So I am going to give the Titans win to the playmakers, not to the quarterback. So, Will Levis still not a winning quarterback in the NFL. There you go.
Jeez, savagery is real. And to listeners that don't know, early when we were around the draft, when we were talking about Will Levis was the butt of many of the jokes that came out of Hound's mouth. I
predicted that he would not be drafted in the first round because all of your draft experts were saying, actually, he might go top 5.
Right.
And nope, I saw through the propaganda, the Will Levis propaganda. So anyways.
Yeah. So that was good. Yeah. And then, you thought it was funny that he went home and then got drafted and looked almost surprised. So I remember some of those conversations. So yeah, we are definitely have come around to being picking our battles, being anti-Bears in general, outside of Tyson Bagent, and then being anti-Will Levis. But I hate
Willis. I have the most hate towards bad players and bad teams. It's really funny. That's kind of the opposite, but okay.
But you must hold back when you talk about Mac Jones and some of the players on New England. Then that you have to listen to me complain about every week. Then that's funny. But it's funny that LB chose Jahmyr Gibbs as his dog of the week, because I almost made Jahmyr Gibbs my dog of the week as well. But I watched that game, and I tell you, man, I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs did great. Don't get me wrong. But it really just wasn't, to me, more all about Jahmyr Gibbs. It was about the dominance of the Lions' offensive line. That's right. I'm giving my dog of the week to actually be dogs of the week in the offensive line play of the Lions. Let me tell you, those guys absolutely manhandled everybody except Max Crosby, which usually, Max Crosby is an absolute monster. So I understand that he was going to get his own, but Max Crosby has the ability to take over games. They only allowed 1 sack. They had 486 yards of total offense, 264 passing yards, which you need time to be able to throw that much, above 200 yards passing. And they had 222 rushing yards. I think about 170 of them, 152 of them, went to Jahmyr Gibbs. So obviously, mucho propso to Jahmyr Gibbs. But Craig Reynolds, who I believe is actually their 3rd string running back, because their 1st string is usually David Montgomery, and he didn't play. But Craig Reynolds had 14 carries for 74 yards, and both Craig Reynolds and Jahmyr Gibbs averaged over 5 yards a carry. So that is a lot of really good offensive line play. And to put it on top, that wasn't even all their starters, and they actually lost another guy. The biggest thing was that their interior guys had been shuffled up a little bit because of some injuries. And then they had another injury, I think, in the second quarter, and put another guy in there. Actually, I think it was the third quarter, and they put another guy in there. And they actually took it over even more. I think Dan Skipper came in, old friend of the Broncos, I know. So I got my dogs of the week going to the offensive line of the Detroit Lions, and you had it to basically to not Will Levis, but to DeAndre Hopkins. So congratulations to those dogs of the week. And I appreciate you giving me this opportunity now to, despite how late it is tonight, my few minutes on the New England Patriots about the good, bad, and the coaching. I know we did some of this a little differently, but here I go. And I mean, I don't know what else to do because this team is just insane. They cannot catch a break. We lost. Obviously, I mentioned we lost Kendrick Bourne. And I'm just going to start with the bad because that's just the easiest stuff to talk about right now. Losing Bourne is huge. He was about 30% of all of our offense, and that's just gone. And I'm grateful now that Demario Douglas will be forced to get more looks. But at the same time, I really hope that they use the opportunity to give more opportunities to Jalen Reagor, to Tyquan Thornton, to Kayshon Boutte, Ty Montgomery, maybe. I mean, just try a bunch of different stuff now that you're in a position, because if they came out of this game winning, so that would have been 2 games that they would have won 2 games in a row against division opponents. They would have been 3-1 in the division, which sets them up real nicely for tiebreakers and stuff like that. And the softest part of our schedule is in the next 3 or 4 weeks, which would have set them up really well to kind of maybe right the ship a little bit. But they needed to either win the Raiders game or win this game, and they didn't win either game. So I don't think this team is in a position to do any more than maybe win 3 or 4 more games, which would honestly be even worse. Honestly, if they only won 2 more games, that'd be the best case scenario. Mm-hmm. But so they've got a lot going on, and their receiver core next week especially is going to be really rough as far as just total time played and game, in-game action and catches and all that. It's going to probably be the least experienced receiving core in the NFL. It's probably going to be a record. I don't know if they'll talk about it, but if they do, it's going to be absolutely appalling to see the lack of experience at wide receiver that we're going to be fielding next week. And considering we didn't trade for anybody else, which I didn't think we would, but considering we didn't trade for anybody else, it's not like anything's going to change on that either. So, so Juju.
But you've got Juju.
Yeah, Juju, I was going to say, caught his first touchdown of this season.
There you go.
But that touchdown was a scheme play that I could have run and scored on, so that doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they ran 3 throws, and none of them were to tight ends in the red zone at like the 1 yard line or 5 yard line or something. I don't remember exactly where.
And also that was his only catch.
Yes, so, it was. Yeah, and I think
it's like you need someone to actually get involved in the passing game, not just take 1 catch or 2 catches a game.
Yeah, not make that one guy that thought he had the inside scoop on Juju having a bunch of playing time. But I do to kind of get to the coaching for just a second. I do appreciate the coaching sticking to their word, because Bill Belichick earlier in the week was asked something, because Juju had just come off of concussion protocol, and there was concern that he was going to take snaps away from Douglas and Bourne and that sort of thing. And then they asked about Jalen Reagor taking snaps away from Tyquan Thornton. And all Bill Belichick said, we evaluate practice, and the best players at practice play at the game. And that's just, it sounds simple, but that's been a mantra of the New England Patriots since Bill Belichick has been there. It doesn't matter where you came from, what your draft pedigree was, what your past is, and how much you're being paid. If you suck, you're staying on the freaking bench. And if you're playing well, you play on the field. And they stuck to it. Juju, I don't think, had a snap until Kendrick Bourne got hurt, which was like early 4th quarter. So to me, that was them sticking to their word, and I really appreciate that. It's a shame that Kendrick Bourne, who kind of had a rough go of it last year after some disagreements with the coaching staff and being kind of put in this virtual doghouse for much of the season and then exploding anytime he was on the field. It finally seemed like they had found a guy to kind of be their go-to guy, and now he's done for the season. So that's really horrific, but hopefully that sets us up to actually lose more games. But while at the same time giving Bill O'Brien and Mac Jones an opportunity to build some chemistry with some of their deeper receivers so that they can have more confidence in them coming into next season. So another bad is the offensive line as a whole. They did not play particularly well, I thought, and especially just the left side. I think Trent Brown had an off game. Cole Strange did not play particularly well. It's funny, the rookie City So did play pretty well, and Mike Onwenu, to no surprise to me, played relatively well, and David Andrews did David Andrews things and played consistently as he has all season. But it just didn't. Mac looked uncomfortable, especially towards the end of the game, which that front four for the Miami Dolphins is a really good front four, very underrated front four, and they kind of took over when it was time for Mac to be the hero that nobody, even Tom Brady, could be in a lot of those situations. Down 14 points with 2.5 minutes to go. You're just asking so much of a guy that just is not surrounded with enough talent to do any of that. So another down I felt like was just Mac Jones's decision making especially as the game wore on. I think in the first, I'd say, quarter and a half, he played pretty well, and he had some good throws in the second half. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like he left some plays out there, and I think it was due to the interception that he threw. I think he was more concerned about not throwing an interception than making a play, which sets your quarterback up to make safe throws, which against the way this Vic Fangio plays his defense usually is not the way it goes. I did appreciate, again, back to the coaching, the way that Bill Belichick drew up our defense, because our defense played immensely better. Even though we gave up more points, I felt like the defense played a lot better than they played against them in earlier in the season. They had less talent out on the field, hypothetically speaking, because Judon wasn't out there and Christian Gonzalez wasn't out there. And Tyreek had a better day because of that. But at the same time, they had, I think I counted 5 tackles for loss, and a lot of those were like our defensive players knew what the play was coming and were aggressive and attacked what they saw instead of sitting back and basically let Tua do whatever he wants and then hoping that they tackle early on enough in the play to keep them under 10 yards per 3 plays, which was not a recipe for success last time, even though the score would tell you otherwise. It wasn't. I was going to mention one other thing, and I'm blanking on it. And offensively, as far as just how the coaching went, it felt like Bill O'Brien was trying to call a game that protected Mac Jones more than it gave Mac Jones an opportunity to win the games. They had to open it up late in the game because they had to, and that's when everything started to look like crap again. But for the most part, it just felt like, and some of it was Mac Jones against decision making. It wasn't all the play calling, but it just felt like a lot of the play designs and that sort of thing were designed to where Mac really couldn't make a mistake. And then because of that, they were easier to read because it's like bubble screens and that sort of thing. And it just didn't seem to work out the way I would have liked it to have, it didn't seem as aggressive. Now, again, there were plays that I think Mac left out on the field, and that was part of my biggest concern about him. I definitely don't feel as good about him as I did last week, but I do think that if Matt can just settle down just a little bit and not be so risk averse after making a mistake, that he will be in a position to make some plays, because he had Devontae Parker in 2 different times in the red zone, once for a first down and once for a touchdown. And then there was another time where he missed Demario Douglas wide open I think it was on a 3rd down. I mean, he was wide freaking open. So it's just one of those things where sometimes you just miss it. And there was times where Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes missed wide open guys. It just happened.
Yep.
But the timing of the read and when the receiver got open just didn't match up. But I did want to take a moment to talk about this play here, and this is actually the Mac Jones interception. And I don't know what I'm calling this segment, but we'll just call it a Guy Spy. That's what we'll call it.
Yeah.
You'll call it Guy Spy. So I'm spying here. Thank you, Taylor Kyles, for the all 22 film here and a little edit from him. But here's the interception. The ball is on the 23.5-yard line, roughly. Just outside the red zone. And the formation here is we got Mac Jones with the six. It looks like 6 offensive linemen, but it's the 5 offensive linemen, and then Hunter Henry on the right, covering the right tackle, Mike Onwenu. We have Ezekiel Elliott to the left of Mac Jones. Mac Jones obviously in the shotgun. And then we have trips left with Devontae Parker in the X. We have I think that's Kendrick Bourne in the F, and then the Z, if I'm not mistaken, is Demario Douglas. And at this point, they have run this Demario Douglas wide receiver screen a handful of times in some sort of like whip motion or an orbit motion or something along those lines. And Devontae Parker and Bourne are a couple of the players that they have used to help block that play. The other thing that you have going on here is on defense, Miami, you're going to see, is actually in zone. So I'm going to hit play here, and what you're going to see is Demario Douglas start an orbit motion and then run back. And if you watch that motion, if you actually look at the player covering him, this is a linebacker here. I believe that's David Long. And you notice that when Demario took off, Long didn't really follow him, but these guys kind of shifted a little bit. And what that tells me, and what should have told Mac Jones, is that this is some sort of zone. And based on the way that the safeties are in this kind of shell out here and shaded, Vic Fangio is famous for either cover 6 or some sort of sky cover 3. So the likelihood is that of the coverage here is that Jalen Ramsey, who's number 5 here, is supposed to be playing deep third over here, or being split with this safety here. I believe Johnson is this guy's last name. Holland didn't play. And what you're going to see here is what the way the play is designed is supposed to be a fake of the screen that they've run a handful of times. And the idea is you're going to get this corner here. This is, I believe, Kohu down here, who'd been on Douglas for most of the game, to crash down and try to bypass Kendrick Bourne to make the play. And Kendrick Bourne is supposed to kind of look like he's going to come here and block. And the hope is you're going to see here that Devontae Parker is actually going to run a post. It's either a post or some sort of fly route of some kind. Either way, his job and his sole job is to get Jalen Ramsey and this safety to follow him. And obviously, as the play develops just a little bit, you're going to see that's what actually happens. You're going to see here on this side, you see that the safety is back, and you can actually start to see Devontae Parker making the cut towards the middle. So this is a post. And ideally, you have Jalen Ramsey here continuing to follow Devontae Parker here. And you can see Kendrick Bourne here at this point is wide open. And if you look at the way his feet are, you can tell he's not exactly running. Okay. And you can see Mac Jones over here already in position. He's already cocking the ball back to throw it, which is fantastic. Exactly what you want. But it kind of looks like, and usually the way this play is drawn up, Kendrick Bourne starts here and then comes here and kind of follows as the zone is cleared out. And what happens here, because they were in zone and because Mac, according to him, threw the ball late, and I think he threw the ball late in upfield, and I think Bourne actually has an option here to either sit the route, which is what I think what he was trying to do, or to continue. And Bourne does, it seems to do the smart thing and start to sit the route, because if you look here, Jalen Ramsey isn't looking at Devontae Parker. He's looking at Mac Jones, which if this had been most corners in the NFL, they probably would have just continued to follow Devontae Parker here, and Mac Jones' throw here wouldn't get intercepted. And what's going to happen here, as you're going to see, is that he stops, and because the throw's up the field instead of right where Bourne was, you're going to see here the ball is now thrown, and it's thrown upfield instead of to this open space where Kendrick Bourne was kind of slowing down and trying to give Mac a lane to throw kind of to his back shoulder here. Mac threw the ball upfield, and because Jalen Ramsey, who's supposed to be following Devontae Parker here, was staring down Mac Jones the whole time, and because he's an elite corner, he broke, quote unquote, his rules, as LB would say it, and stared down the quarterback, and it looks like an easy interception, and relatively is. But the issue here, again, is Mac is probably taught on this play, if there is no option, although it kind of looks like it is, Mac is taught on this play that the corner should be down going with Devontae Parker up here. So because that didn't happen, it is, according to CBS, an egregious, absolutely horrific interception, which to me, that's an interception that is really more a great play by the defense rather than obviously it was a mistake of Mac to not throw the ball, back here where you have Kendrick Bourne kind of giving him a lane here. But even here, you can see David Long's already turning here to try to make a play. So, I mean, Kendrick Bourne is plenty open here if Mac throws it, at the sticks rather than trying to throw it upfield. But I'm just so tired of people talking about Mac Jones like he just makes all these really dumb decisions and bad throws and all the rest, and like it's like he's just such an idiot. And he's not. This is not an idiot throw. This is a throw, probably more so him throwing the ball based on what he was taught in coaching. And unfortunately for the Patriots, Vic Fangio and specifically Jalen Ramsey have seen plays like this before, and he was in zone. If this was in man, it'd be a touchdown. But because they were in zone, and because Jalen Ramsey was smart enough to keep his eyes on the quarterback because he trusted his safety to carry Devontae Parker, he was able to jump the route. And obviously Mac did throw it a little late, but not so late and not so forward that if Jalen Ramsey was, quote unquote, following his rules, to where at the very least it should have been a completion. But because of just the eliteness testing Jalen Ramsey after not playing for, 10 weeks or whatever it was. I mean, I don't blame you for testing him. I don't know if I test him this way, but at the same time, I understand the thought process of the coaches. So to me, this is just an example of being the talent difference here, being that, Devontae Parker not being enough of a threat to keep Jalen Ramsey occupied, Mac Jones not being exactly on the same page as Kendrick Bourne, who I think is actually making the right decision by trying to sit the route, and Jalen Ramsey just being an absurdly talented and seasoned veteran corner who has seen a lot and probably knew that this play was getting set up, for this time. And it's just a shame that it went down the way it did. And it kind of, I think, rocked Mac for the rest of the game. But it's not an egregious interception. It's more so, I think, just getting outplayed and outcoached. And that's just I think the total package there on that. So I don't know what else to call that segment, but there you go, guys breakdown or whatever, guy spy, whatever. I'll figure out a name. Yeah, I'll figure out a way to call it. And next time I'll be smart enough to put it on to where you can see it too, so you could comment on it. So I'm sorry about that. I just realized I hadn't done that, so I had put it in my head to do it. But you'll be able to see it on the deal, so that'll be good. I would usually be going into Dogs of the Week and prediction time, but we already did that. So do you have any news on the Swifty or the Kelsey or the Swelce or whatever is going on with that? What is that? Does that have anything to do with the loss on with the loss on Sunday?
I mean, it could, because she wasn't there in the Broncos versus Chief game. And Travis Kelce does get twice as many receiving yards when she is in attendance. So who knows? But she's starting tour soon, and she's going international. So that'll be interesting. And apparently Travis Kelce is going to go to one of her concerts after we play the Dolphins this week.
In Germany?
Yeah, because he's in Germany, but she's in like South America, I want to say. But we have our bye week afterward. That's right.
Gotcha.
But then the other big news is that apparently Travis Kelce's publicist posted a photo of Taylor Swift with a clown emoji over her face.
Oh.
And that didn't make the Swifties very happy. So, they took down the post, but he's not getting fired, or whoever the publicist is probably not going to get fired, apparently. So anyways, there's some drama brewing. So anyways.
Yeah. So if you guys get smoked by Miami, there might be some things going on with the correlation between the Swiftie power versus without Swiftie powered.
True.
Kansas City Chiefs. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, glad to hear about that update. And to update you all, the next round of shorts should be out either now or within 24 hours of this pod. So keep an eye out for that. Another thing to look out for is I think I've got enough footage of bloopers from our time here that we probably could start a Saturday night sitcom to blow Saturday Night Live out of the water, but we'll leave that alone right now. And there's some comments that have been made that would make us ineligible to be on those shows. So look forward to some of that stuff. Obviously, like, comment, subscribe, watch the shorts, watch the long stuff, watch the medium stuff, if you want to call it the medium stuff. We appreciate you guys very much. And seriously, I say this every week, but I'm dead serious. If you all have questions or comments or opinions about some of our takes, or just questions in general about maybe our opinion on your team or your arch rival team, we've spent a lot of time talking about media outlets as far as the Pat McAfee show and CBS and ESPN and some of the people on there. So if you have questions about our opinions on some of their takes, feel free to, talk about those in the comments or on our Instagram. We'd love to integrate more of you guys' thoughts into our program. So please take the time to do so. If you have those questions, we are not going to ignore them. I promise you that. So go ahead and leave a comment, please. And without further ado, thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the No Punt Intended Sportscast. Be sure to check out the Thinking Hound and to like, share, and subscribe.